Hey, it's the last week of the semester, woohoo! And also, it's 2 a.m. in the morning right now, and I'm on 3 hours of sleep today. What's up? It's the Culture Detective here investigating your favorite movies. And today, I'm going to be talking about a film that I just finished watching 2 hours ago. And that film is Sinners. This is a new film written and directed by Ryan Coogler, and holy ball sacks, this film has blown up. So when Sinners, like, they released their trailers and stuff, I did not watch any of them. In fact, I still haven't seen any trailers of Sinners or any clips or anything. I went into this film completely blind, knowing as little as possible. The only thing I know about Sinners is that it has hella high ratings on Letterboxd. Everyone's saying it's the best film of the decade. Everyone's saying it's an instant classic, it's a masterpiece, it's the best film in Hollywood right now. So I was like, well, I guess I gotta watch it then. I guess I gotta watch it then. I have no choice. So I gave into the peer pressure. I gave into the internet, and I was like, okay, fine, I'll watch it. And not only that, I decided to watch it on IMAX 70 millimeter film. Not just IMAX, but IMAX 70 millimeter film. And I just watched it all by myself at the Chinese theater at Hollywood. So I literally just came back home from Hollywood just to watch Sinners. Now, Ryan Coogler is a bit of an intriguing filmmaker indeed, because he went to the same film school I'm in right now. And so I would like to say that Sinners might be the ultimate CTPR 480. If you know what I'm saying, you know. If you don't know, it's fine. It's a very niche reference. But Ryan Coogler, as it turns out, is a bit of a Trojan himself. In fact, SCA, he's from the School of Cinematic Arts. Oh my god. And surprisingly, I feel like Ryan Coogler has been already making films so far into his career that he's already shaken off all of his 310 and 480, USC flavors, if you will. Of course, we have the breakout film Fruitvale Station, which I haven't seen. We have Creed. Ryan Coogler's most popular films, Black Panther 1 and 2, both of which I think are pretty good, but definitely nothing that blow me away or anything. Now, let's get back to Sinners. This is a period horror musical about twin brothers, both played by Michael B. Jordan, and their names are Stack and Smoke. And they opened a juke joint somewhere in the deep south, I believe in like Mississippi or something. And I've forgotten. I'm sorry. I don't know, somewhere in the deep south. And then vampires showed up and all hell breaks loose. That's basically the premise, and right off the bat I was actually quite intrigued, because I feel like a lot of people sort of ignore these very tropey horror genre films. They're very niche, and also they're very tired. We've seen a lot of vampire movies already, so how would you reinvent it? But I think exactly because people are ignoring this subgenre, Ryan Coogler should explore this even more and reinvent it so that it is beyond that. And that's exactly what Ryan Coogler did. This is a Southern Gothic horror film meets Afro surrealism. And it is a vampire film, yes, but it's also very much about racial politics and culture and history and overcoming trauma in some ways. It's actually pretty layered for a vampire movie. I like that in the 1950s we have Night of the Living Dead, which is it's a zombie movie, it's a very indie film, but it's also a little bit about politics. Sinners is basically this generation's Night of the Living Dead. It's a home invasion monster movie, zombie, vampire, etc., and updated to this generation's politics, this generation's cultural discourse. It's very much this generation's monster movie, and I really like that. I really like that when it started off, it felt like a period film with an epic scale. You can feel its scale in the beginning. Not only that, the backstory of this film is very interesting. So apparently Ryan Coogler pitched this film for Marvel as a script for Blade, but Marvel didn't like it. They turned him down. And so Ryan Coogler got the money from Warner Brothers and made this film, and it's a humongous success. And a lot of big studios are now really pissed off because of that. You know what? That's great. Take that. Take that, Marvel. Take that. Shout out to my man Ryan. Shout out to my man Ryan Coogler and Ludwig Göransson for pulling this off. You know what? Forget about the studios. Make your own movies. So, anyways, before I get into the nitty gritty details, the performances, they're so good. Wunmi Mosaku as Anne in this film is really good, and Delroy freaking Lindo, so fucking good. Every line delivery, either it's hilarious or devastating, or devastatingly hilarious. That's supporting actor nom locked. Next up, the music. Ludwig Göransson, he is so good at this. What the hell? And yeah, he's won 2 Oscars already for Best Composer. I can see him winning a third with this movie. This film is so centered on music that Ludwig Göransson really blew himself out of the water. He really took an extra step forward when he composed music for Sinners. Let's just say that. Cinematography is also really good. Apparently, this is the first time in film history where this DP, the cinematographer, is a woman who shot on an IMAX film. Now, that's an interesting fun fact. And I know women cinematographers have been a thing for a little while. Case in point, Beau Travail with Agnes Godard, amazing cinematography, by the way. But first time on IMAX, wow, that's interesting. Now, speaking of IMAX, one thing I was quite concerned when watching this film is that I was afraid of the aspect ratio changes. I remember watching Oppenheimer 2 years ago, and even though I think it's a decent film, I was definitely annoyed by how much the aspect ratio changes from 1.43 native IMAX ratio to 1.9. This film actually changes even more drastically. It goes from 2.35, I believe, or 2.39 to 1.43. So it literally goes from this to like this. And every time it changes, it's smooth. And I like that it doesn't change that much. So I really appreciate it. So now let's get into the nitty-gritty details. Now, of course, in its core, it's a vampire movie about a juke joint, a party place, a bar, being invaded by vampires, by white Caucasian vampires. But it's also so much about racial politics, and almost in a similar vein as, Jordan Peele's cultural commentary in Get Out and Nope, even though they're horror films. Similarly, this is a horror film, but it is using horror as a device to talk about racial politics. Obviously, we're talking about the 1930s when there's a lot of racism, there's segregation, and the vampires, the blood-sucking vampires, are white. They are Caucasian, because back then and even now, unfortunately, there are still a lot of people who make use of their privilege because of their ethnicity to basically suck the privilege out of other unfortunate communities, to put it politely. Yeah. I really like the inclusion of Asians here. Not only because I'm Asian and I see myself, I see Asians on the screen and I'm like, hey, that's cool. But also, one of the big Republican talking points, and it's so fucking stupid, is that Asians are the model minority and black people are not. And that has been a Republican talking point since like the 80s and the 90s. But this film, I think, hammers down the idea that, hey, all, I guess, underdog communities are underdog communities, and they should unite in fighting the powers that be. And of course, we have the token white person here, played by Haley Steinfeld, which I think is like, hey, it's not just about white people being bad. It's more about racists being bad, which is very much true in the case of this film and also in real life. What I love about this film, though, what I absolutely adore, is that it's about music. It's a musical, and it uses music as a channel to discuss culture. We have a lot of blues in this film, a lot of spirituals, a lot of soul music, and then that is contrasted by white people's music, country folk and Irish folk. Yes, the vampires are singing in this movie quite a few times. And this immediately reminded me of RRR, like the dance scene in RRR when the white guy was like, "Oh, do you know tango? Do you know flamenco?" And then the two lead characters are like, "No, but we do know, not do, not do." This film almost takes it a step further because this film doesn't actually make fun of white people music aside from the first scene with the banjos. This film actually respects a lot, especially Irish folk music. There's a scene with Irish folk, and that scene is fantastic. It's fiery, it's full of flames, and this scene proves that the problem isn't that, ooh, white people music bad, black people music good. That's not the point at all. White people music is just as beautiful and moving and compelling. The point, however, is that they are colonizing black people music. White people or Westerners try to force black people to assimilate to their culture. So don't do hip hop, don't do blues, don't do R&B. Do what we do. That kind of situation. And now, of course, nowadays, if you look at, it's 2025, it's so much more nuanced, but we're talking the 1930s here. There's definitely that sentiment towards jazz and blues, like, oh, you guys are like not as educated, so your music is not as valid, whereas our music, like, ooh, classical music, is somehow more valid because it's more educated or something. So it's a very interesting discourse using music as a way to discuss cultural politics. I think it's fantastic. I also think all the music scenes are really well shot. There are a lot of scenes where people are just sweating and dancing and jumping around in the bar, and it immediately reminds me of Marvin Gaye's I Want You album cover. And then the elephant in the room. There's a dance scene in the middle of the film. I'm not going to spoil what happens, but just for this scene alone, please go to the theaters and watch it. Holy fuck. This scene is spectacular. I was like, I was doing this. It was so fucking insane. Let's just say that past, present, future collide in terms of musical genres. We have blues, soul, hip hop, drum and bass, which, by the way, a lot of drum and bass, a lot of breakbeats, they wouldn't exist without black people. Like, black people in the UK literally started the jungle scene. And then, as if that's not enough, we have Beijing opera, and like someone's dancing flamenco or someone's dancing salsa in the back. And suddenly, I just get chills because it's unity. This isn't just a scene showcasing how cool music is. It's about how music brings us together, and us, not just a group of people, but the fucking human race. Music is power. Music is resistance against the powers that be. I'm sorry, I just gave a spoiler. I'm gonna add a minor spoiler alert, like here. But that was beautiful. Holy shit. So, as expected, right after the scene, I expected the rest of the film to be just as good. Unfortunately, that's not the case. This scene is the peak of the film. The rest is good, but it's not as great as that one scene. I was expecting the second half of the film to be just full-blown Afro surrealism. Not really. It goes back to grounded territory, um, and we have one story beat after another, and then it ends, and I thought it was pretty good. It's just that the second act didn't punch me as hard as that one scene and the first act. I wish they commit to the campiness more. I don't know why, but I feel like this film should be even longer. It should be like 2 hour 40 minutes, if not 3 hours, and every single story beat should be longer, more dramatic, more melodramatic, more tear jerking. There are some death scenes. Maybe it's because I'm tired and I'm a little burnt out from watching too many films lately, but like there are character death scenes that are supposed to be brutal, but their deaths hasn't completely registered in my head and they already moved on to the next scene. Like, let me mourn a little longer. Let me linger in this brutality a little longer. Also, I feel like throughout the entire film, I wasn't with the characters completely. Maybe it's because there are a lot of characters. We have the Smoke and Stack, and we have the Preacher Boy, and then we have Delroy Lindo's character, and then so on and so on. But I feel like I just wasn't with the characters as much as I want to. But still, the ending is pretty great. I like the way the ending, the mid credit scene and the post credit scene. I think they're both beautiful. I just think that a few scenes here and there feel like they could have been more impactful. I just wish this film hit me harder. I just wish this film is more enjoyable to me the same way it's so enjoyable for so many others, you know? Maybe my expectations were too high because I saw like it has such a high rating and everything. But either way, it is still a very great film. And go see it in the theaters, please. I'm giving Sinners a strong 8 out of 10. So, have you watched Sinners? Comments below, let me know. Subscribe if you want more. And thanks for watching.